Hey everyone, welcome to Primer Podcast. We're here with Pete. Pete, you're back in the saddle this week. Welcome back.
Thank you.
We've had some great guest speakers of this summer.
Absolutely,
some great moments. But we're looking forward to you starting a new series this Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah, we're embracing the summer themes here and looking at a little bit of a superhero themed series called Marvels, in which we're exploring the miracles of Jesus in the Gospel of John. But before we jump into the miracles, are you a superhero fan, Nick?
Oh, I mean, who's not?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone is. Yeah.
What's your what lane of superheroes are you in? Are you more of like Marvel, DC, PJ Masks?
PJ.
Which
one's one? I do like the PJ Masks.
Yeah. So does Finley.
Marvel.
Yeah.
Just because they've developed them so much better. But my favorite one, probably DC character, is Superman. My favorite superhero, even though I like Marvel in general. But Superman, I mean,
I relate to the Hulk, I think, not in strength, but in just emotional regulation and those kind of things. So that's my go-to there.
Good.
I'm kidding. I don't have an anger problem. At least I don't think I do. So, but
very, very good. All right. Well, let's jump into the passage. Can we read the passage this week?
Yeah. Well, let's first start with let's look at John 20, verse 30 and 31, because that kind of gives a little bit of a framework of really the intention of the miracles that John records specifically. So do you have it there?
I had marked it.
You got it ready, man.
20 what?
30 and 31.
Oh, that's 30 and 31. Okay. So Jesus performed many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book. But these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing, you may have life in his name.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting because the Gospel of John, unlike the other Gospels, only has 7 miracles recorded. So John's saying, look, there are a lot of other miracles, right? Jesus did so many things in his 3 years of ministry and his life, his 30 years before that aren't recorded in this Gospel. But I've recorded these 7 miracles because they reveal the character of God. I love Gary Burge is a great theologian, and in his commentary, he says this about John's recording of those miracles. He said, John wants us to see beyond this event, to see the sign as a means to an end, not an end in itself. The story prompts us not simply to promote Jesus' power and somehow prove that because he has power, he is who he claims. The story invites us to ask penetrating questions about this person. And when we glimpse his glory, we will discover faith. And I just love that picture. And I think that's probably true, in the miraculous to this day too. I get the question, somewhat often from folks of like, how do we pray for a miracle or why haven't I experienced a miracle in my life? And, the short answer is I don't know. But the longer answer is to say, because a miracle has never been and will never be about the power and the spectacle. Instead, miracles are always these signs that reveal to us the character of God. And so when we see miracles, when we experience them in our modern life, but also in Scripture, they should lead us to ask questions of like, what does that tell me about who God is? What does that reveal to me about the character of Jesus? And so over the course of this series, we're looking at those 7 miracles, and we're going to ask those questions to say, what's happening here, and why has that happened? So we can now jump into our passage. So I'll read John 2 verses 1 through 11. And honestly, as I'm reading, just stop me with anything that seems like, hey, what's going on there? And we can kind of discuss and wrestle through and kind of have some curiosity around it. So on the third,
I'll stop you there.
Okay, thank you.
I'm joking.
Good, that's great. On the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no wine." "Woman, why do you involve me?" Jesus replied. "My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water." So they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet. They did so. And the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside and said, everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best until now. What Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee was the first of the signs through which he revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. So what are things that stick out that create question marks for you?
Well, I
or
mean,
just things that insights?
Yeah, and well, I mean, it's a wedding,
Yeah.
right? And we just was at a wedding just past Saturday.
Yeah.
Did not.
You did a great job.
Last 3 days.
Yeah, no, it didn't.
Or a week, but that one of the things I think we have to realize is the weddings are different, right?
Yeah.
And I don't, and so I guess maybe are we assuming that it's the third day of the wedding week, you think?
Well, they start off the days earlier, and it's like the beginning of Jesus's ministry. So it starts in like the calling of disciples. But either way, the wedding, to your point, is like it's like this week-long ordeal. And it's very different than our experience with weddings, personally, where it's this whole week. And one of the really beautiful things about a wedding in this ancient context is it was an escape for this young couple, right? So this young couple is probably in the peasant or working class at this time. They're living in Galilee in this small town in Cana. And by the way, Jesus's mother seems to be in charge of the logistics of the wedding, right? So they have this intimate connection to Jesus's family in some capacity. And we know that Jesus comes from a family that didn't have significant means. And so if his mom is in charge of these ceremonies, that it likely is this couple that doesn't have a lot to their name. And for 1 week in their life, they get treated like royalty. Like for 1 week in their life, everybody comes together. They celebrate. They have this joy. They have this experience. And they get to provide for their friends and family in a way that they can't otherwise. And like hospitality is so important in that ancient culture. For us, like hospitality is something nice that you do, like have some friends over, for a cookout or something along those lines. But in the ancient culture, hospitality was this central tenet of who you were, and it demonstrated your value, but also your value for other people. And so this was a chance for them to establish their marriage rooted in this really foundational, component of hospitality, right? And so now something goes wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They run out of wine.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how that happened.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And I think that, it's interesting because we don't know exactly, all of the reasons. But one of the things I think about here is why was running out of wine such a big deal? Was it because like their friends couldn't have a good time without wine? Like probably not. Right. That's not the type of wedding I imagine that Jesus is at and that his mom is serving. But that says something about my preparation and my hospitality for my guests. When you have somebody that invites you over for dinner, you expect dinner, right? And if they hand you crackers, you leave disappointed. And that's in a modern context. In this ancient context, when our hospitality demonstrates the value I have for you, I was invited to this wedding and they don't have enough for me, right? And so there's this sense that right here they have some serious egg on their face, that they have invited all these friends and family, and one of these kind of key components of the wedding feast is just run out. And I find that to be this really kind of interesting component. You see in here also that Jesus is hesitant to perform the miracle. What do you think is going on there in that hesitancy?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, it feels like it's not that big. It is a big deal. Like I know it's a big deal, but no one's blind.
Yeah.
Right. It's like compared to other miracles, like people aren't going hungry. Like, it seems like, he hasn't, done this yet. And so maybe it's like, is this the time? Like, is this worth it just because someone's going to be embarrassed?
Yeah.
But,
and I think that's like a really neat kind of like tension that you're sharing there. So like, he probably doesn't want to perform this miracle because, He hasn't even gathered all of his disciples, right? At this point, he's got 5 disciples. Like he's not ready to publicly announce and bring that notoriety and that focus and those eyes of the world on him. And yet he does for what seems to be really trivial, right? To your point, he provides this wine that again is sparing this young couple of shame, but and embarrassment. But what I love to think about when you wrestle with that, penetrating question is what does his willingness to alter his plans for something seemingly trivial say about the character of God? And I think about even like your sermon last week and looking at the garden and looking at that wonder and that marvel and that awe. And I realized like this is the central story from day one. God had a plan. God's plan was good. There's shame that enters in. There's brokenness. So there's this short-sighted. They haven't prepared for their guests there, and that's going to bring shame upon them. That they take the apple from the tree, and what does that do? It brings shame upon them. And in response to that shame, God alters the plan. Right. And so that's this immediate thing that we see in this story is that Jesus, in this unplanned miracle where he alters this divine plan, is demonstrating the same character of God that we have seen since day one. It's the announcing of why am I here? I'm entering into the world and the brokenness of sin. I'm meeting you in your shame and I'm freeing you of that. And I just think that's so neat that Jesus meets this young couple in a seemingly trivial detail now. And he says, you know what? Because you guys are met in that shame, I'm going to free you from that. And that says everything about who Jesus is, this empathy, compassion, this mercy that he pours out in that space. And I just love,
I think, and I've not thought about that. That's just my favorite superhero. This is my favorite miracle now.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I need to think about it, but it seems like this is the only miracle where something, all the other miracles were things that happened to a person.
Right.
But this was their mistake. This was their not planning. And
right.
And that's just,
I feel like it's always a miracle too that you talk about with like and then water into wine.
Yeah.
Right. Where it's like, this is kind of a lesser of miracles. And yet it announces who Jesus is, a God who's willing to enter into our shame, to free us of our sin, to alter his good plan because of our brokenness and our hurt. And then I think the second piece that really kind of has stood out to me this week that hadn't before is like John uses some really explicit language about the vessels that Jesus performs the miracles with, right? So what does he say about those vessels?
He said, nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding 20 to 30 gallons.
Right. So like that's a crazy, like he doesn't say like, hey, bring me a few of the pitchers on the tables.
Yeah.
Right. Bring me a few of the barrels that held the wine. Instead, he very specifically looks at these 6 ceremonial basins that hold this water that's central to kind of the ritual and regulation of the Jewish faith that provides purity and cleanliness, and he utilizes those to perform this miracle. And there are kind of 3 things that we see. Is first, they're these ceremonial barrels, right? They hold this deep religious significance to the people. Second, there's 6 of them. Right. And again, John is using really specific language. And so what's the number of perfection in the Jewish culture? 7. I don't know. No, you nailed it. He whispered.
I almost got
7, right? There's 7 days of creation, 7 days around Jericho. There's 7 times 77 is how many you forgive. Like 7 is this number of perfection. And so 6 is always the number that demonstrates imperfection, right? So he takes these religious, vessels that are imperfect, that are not filled. And then on top of that, he fills them all. How many gallons are in them? 20 to 30 gallons. That's 180 gallons of wine. We think that there's a humble wedding, probably 50 to 100 guests. That's the equivalent essentially of 15 to 20 bottles of wine per guest. That is more wine than anyone could possibly consume at a wedding. And it leaves you scratching your head and being like, why? Like, what's like, we see miracles in the Old Testament, widow of Zarephath, right? She has this oil that never runs out. Why doesn't Jesus do that? It's just like, hey, you'll always have enough.
Enough, yeah.
No, it's this statement that he makes, this statement of abundance that says, hey, I'm meeting you in your shame. And also, what is this revealing about my character? That I am a God that is going to pour out so much grace and mercy and love on you. One person, every person gathered at the banquet could not possibly consume my grace, my mercy, and my love, right? And I think that is this really powerful expression of what Jesus is about. He's not about people that have it figured out. He's not about people that don't need any grace, that don't need any mercy, that don't need any love. Instead, he meets us in our brokenness. He relieves us of our shame, and his love, his sacrifice is more than we could possibly need or, want or imagine, right? And
yeah.
I just think that's such a neat, piece of this miracle. This is the sign of a God that's stating his intention in this world in a way that would have been eye-opening to those gathered, but a way that you and I, in reading it with modern eyes, just skip over and we're like, yeah, let's go to the next one. Well, didn't he, feed 5,000 people? Didn't he heal a paraplegic? Like, let's look at something else.
Yeah.
So I just love this passage.
Well, I think the last thing I think we're about done is I think it's not the words of Jesus here. Honestly, it's the words of the master of the banquet.
Yeah.
He says, everyone brings out the choice wines first and then the cheaper wine. And after the guests have had too much to drink, but you have saved the best till now. Like Jesus is like, he's proclaiming that the best is yet to come.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And I never had seen that until I read it today. I said, that is so cool.
Yeah.
And the best is, and that's the whole message of Jesus.
Yeah. It's not this idea of like, we'll fix it. We'll give you healing, but it's never going to be what it used to be. Yeah. Right. Instead it's like what I come to offer, the life that I come to offer is so abundant. I read a theologian too that said, the sweetness of Jesus, the sweetness of God is that in our normal relationships, the first impression is more often not the most attractive. And then we learn over time to put up with the shortcomings of those that we love. And with Jesus, it's the opposite, right? Over time, we grow more and more in love with the abundance of the life of God, because every single layer that we peel back reveals this new power and this new love. And I think that's, again, spoken to in this passage. So.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, it's my new favorite miracle.
All right. Hey, I'm glad we've changed your perspective on this miracle. It's mine as well until next week when I do another miracle, and then that might be my new favorite. But hey, we're so thankful that you joined us and hope that you enjoy digging into this obscure miracle, and perhaps it will become your new favorite as well. See you soon.
Hey, welcome everyone to the what's the call back?
Primer Podcast.
Primer, okay, I'm on it.
Got it.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're good to go?
Okay. I got to get together just a second.
Look, we need a podcast like this. We're just having fun with the gospel.
I'm glad it's the summer.